back to some Pokemon training. Kind of wish I knew how many clips it's gonna take for us to make our next big step forward, then I'd be able to hype myself up for those future events. Probably not much point in capturing an Ekans. Still, we've got some balls and we haven't caught one before. Even if I'm not planning on using a lot of the Pokemon we're going to capture over the course of the game, it's not like the player is in any way guilted or punished for having a bunch of Pokemon just sitting in the box. Come to think of it, just how full is our box at this point with all those unknowns? Again, that kind of game mechanic kind of fucks with the whole idea that the player character cares for our Pokemon more than the rival character. Not that I don't care about the members I keep on our team for an extended period of time, still, this game has barely any kind of storytelling whatsoever. So the fact that the game mechanics kind of undermine the bare-bones story of this game is a bit funny. And considering how long this game is gonna be, I'll grab any chance to chuckle I can find. It must be some small prey, considering just how many Pokemon are larger than an Ekans could possibly swallow. And we're never gonna see an Ekans actually eat another Pokemon whole. It's not even about the game designers not wanting to bother to animate anything with any real detail. It's that awkward moment where you ask yourself if you really want to introduce that kind of vor into the main games. Though I suppose a lot of fan artists would pull that sort of thing, regardless of if the company wants to, since, well, images of someone being swallowed whole and possibly being digested are somehow pretty attractive to some people. I'm not trying to kink shame. I'm just killing time in this clip by mentioning random things that come to my head. It's not like us taking on this Nidoran is especially enthralling to me. At best, part of me wanted to go from talking about vor fetish to making a cheap joke about dealing with a horny bastard now. I couldn't really come up with a way to word it that sounded especially funny to myself, though. And unfortunately, I'm the only member of the audience I can actually hear from when I'm coming up with commentary. By the time I get to read anyone's reactions of a video posted, the clip has already been uploaded, and the raw footage I commented on has already been deleted to free up space for another game recording. Flender definitely would not have stood a chance in hell against this Nidoran without Supersonic. Part of me wants to say it's a shame that I'm not gonna keep that move in Flender's arsenal. Still, it's a bit too luck-based for my tastes, and frankly, luck is surprisingly such a big factor in all Pokemon battles. Will this attack land? Will that status effect take hold? Will said status effect screw over the guy we're fighting in this turn, or one of the next ones? And that makes 10 trainer wins for Flender. He's tied with Lurker right now. Our team's overall score is 39. And since just 2 members of the team have done over 2/3 of those wins, it's going to take quite a bit of work and luck for the rest of the Pokemon on the board to bridge that gap. But most importantly of all, Flender has gained his primary attack at last. Bite is most definitely going to make him a lot more effective as the clips keep rolling on. It certainly would allow for us to hit another poison, flying, or bug type for neutral instead of it being resisted. I'd probably feel more sorry about that if it wasn't for the fact that you're gonna have the exact same team regardless of how long you sit there uninterrupted. Oh dear, this is gonna be a trainer that has nothing but Magikarp? I always feel guilty for slapping around a trainer like that, because of course, it takes an obscene amount of leveling up for a Magikarp to be able to even throw an actual attack. And even then, they don't hit anywhere near hard enough considering their level. that puts Lurker back in the lead. Considering that small bit of experience, this is definitely gonna do Lurker's score some favors. Seriously, the only reason we might want to switch Pokemon right now would be possibly because I wanted to spread the experience around the team some more. And frankly, when I'm actually playing, I don't give a damn about the scorecard. When I'm actually playing, I only think about what level we are, the attacks we have available at the time, and if things might be tough enough that I want type advantages of one kind or another used against a particular opponent. But tracking wins against trainers is such a nice way to give me more to talk about, even in battles that have absolutely no stakes, are obscenely one-sided in our favor, and just aren't really drawing me in. It's also pretty funny that the absolute top scorer at this point is a Pokemon that will most definitely not be on the team by the time we get to the Elite Four, and that our starter, who was literally there as our first one in the game, is in 3rd place. Just kind of weird. Anyway, looks like I switched to Vincent purely because he's one of the more annoying ones to level up. His attack doesn't do all that much to the enemies he can actually touch, and there are far too many hostiles at this stage of the game that he can't even injure, since he and the opponent keep phasing through one another. Yeah, really hard not to feel like a bully of one kind or another when you're fighting against a bunch of Magikarp. That was remarkably little experience considering we were 3 levels beneath that fish. And we're back to having a level advantage as we finish this kind of sad battle off. And that puts Vincent up to 3. And Lurker is up to 12. Why Sploosh instead of Splash? After all, Splash is the most used move he has. Mostly because it's the only move he has. Girl, I've been operating with very little money at this point, granted. I probably wasn't ever gonna try to gain the money that we're saving up with her, but still, this just feels like such a bit of random bullshit. I'm sorry to say that you're going to lose to some random kid here, sir, because unfortunately, this kid you've run into is destined to become champion, and you aren't even a stepping stone. Okay, we still have a level advantage. Was kind of expecting the fish to use either a water or normal type move, not a flying one. I guess Lurker isn't gonna get this win. Okay, not about to throw Gramash against a water type if we don't have an overwhelming advantage in terms of levels here. Guess we're throwing Vincent back out there, even if he's already leveled up. By the way, I want to call bullshit on the fact that Vincent can't hit flying types like Spearow, because they count as normal type, but somehow the flying type move Peck still lands on him. Why doesn't flying type just phase through ghost types, just like normal and fighting types? Does that little inconsistency somehow make up for the fact that Ghost being able to hurt fighting when fighting can't hurt Ghost? Sometimes the weaknesses, strengths, and resistances just don't always make sense. Well, that's a bit embarrassing. Sorry, Vincent, I thought you had that one. Great. Now part of me can't help feeling it would have been hilarious if Lurker was taken down by a critical hit there. It wasn't if you tried to rush things or not, it's the fact that you've only had one Pokemon and we've got 6. Granted, I can't think of too many trainers in a given game that have a full team of 6 with them other than maybe the rival. And it takes quite a while for the rival to have 6 Pokemon in his arsenal, despite the guy supposedly being the closest thing to equal to the player character anyone ever gets. Hey, don't blame an entire generation of kids because of technology not allowing them to have absolutely every phone number of every random person they talk to. Again, if and when I get around to working on Soul Silver, I'll take all callers. But we've got an obscene amount of footage to get through before we get to the end of this game. And it's gonna be an exhausting ride finishing this journey. Yeah, at least our team is starting to get some genuine variety in our movesets at this point. That's gotta be worth something. Especially since I somehow doubt I'm gonna use as many TMs as I probably should later on. Partly because TMs are one use for quite a few generations, partly our limited amount of money, and partly because it's gonna take a while for me to finalize our team makeup for the rest of the game. This is as good a place to save as any, and I fit more into this clip, so let's keep going for a while longer. With this little bastard, we'll have our full team at level 12. It certainly took us long enough to level up to around where we would have needed to be just to beat Brock in the first generation. Though I probably should have leveled up more against Falkner, just because of how embarrassingly close that fight ended up being. Guess this is another moment where I'm not capturing a Pokemon that we don't have in the lab already. I'm getting a distinct feeling that I'm just not as willing to bother trying to catch them all in this game compared to the first generation. Not like I actually filled the Pokedex there, but I think it's partly because we spent so many Pokeballs in the Ruins of Alph. It might also be because my brain kind of wants to avoid things going pretty similar to our Pokemon Red playthrough, so I'm avoiding some of the strong early Pokemon like Rattata and Spearow on our team. Either way, it's not like we're losing anything by not capturing them, which again feels like part of my brain just doesn't connect with some of the things that Pokemon considers part of the core themes. I can't tell if me choosing to do this playthrough a certain way is making this LP kind of drag down a bit. It's not like I could remember how my Pokemon Red playthrough went from clip to clip. It kind of mostly felt like a blur. Hell, I've LP'd so many games that pretty much all of them feel like a blur. I can only really keep track of what I'm working on at the moment, and at the moment, I've got to admit, Pokemon is kind of dragging for a bit. Not really sure why I slowed things down for us grabbing a great goal in the middle of the grass. Possibly because it looks like a genuine sign of us making some progress? Well, at least taking on a fresh trainer is a better reason to slow things down for a while. You've got one Pokemon. I don't think you've been doing much capturing there, kid. I also don't think there are any whoopers in the grass here, though I suppose it's possible I'm just not lucky enough at the right time of day to see one to catch one. Anyway, looks like once again Lurker isn't going to be able to get the job done. Yeesh. Well, it's certainly been rare for us to run into Pokemon that feel tailor-made for Venus to take out this early on. Though is it really right to call it early on when we're 18 clips into this playthrough? Sure, we've only got 1 out of 8 gyms done for the main story, but I've completed a number of damn good games in fewer clips than we've used for this game so far, and I've been fast-forwarding to try to condense things to a degree here. Eesh. I think this is one of the few times the games actually acknowledge that Pokemon, the creatures that you're supposed to be befriending, are in any way edible. Outside of the Pokedex, the game designers generally don't even think about how anyone in this world is supposed to eat, Pokemon or otherwise. I'm not asking for enough detail to judge just how realistic the ecosystem might be. I'm not even asking for things to be immersive enough for me to feel like I could actually live in this world. It's just that frustrating thing where I keep wanting more, and I damn well know that after a point, the Pokemon game designers will just stop bothering to try to build on top of the extremely strong foundation they started off with. Granted, it is a bit unfair to complain about the franchise's lack of growth when I'm still working on a game that was made back when there was plenty of moments of attempted innovation. But you could literally go straight from Generation 2 to Generation 6, and the only major lasting change was the inclusion of fairy types. Everything else was pretty, shaky in terms of, oh, we're gonna have this, no, wait, we're removing it in the next game, that sort of thing. Whereas if you went from Final Fantasy 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, you'd see and feel plenty of differences as the series evolved with the times and the technology. I only really dropped out of that franchise from 13 onwards when they tried too hard to make things feel movie quality. There are just several things that turned me off of Final Fantasy VII's remake that overwhelm the things that make me want to love it. There's just something about the design philosophy of that franchise that just didn't mesh with me in that remake, and it's the same things that turned me off from Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 13, 15, and 16. They make simple story elements more complicated than they need to be. They make things absurdly beautiful to look at without really thinking of how it all comes together. But dear God, as many issues as I have with modern Final Fantasy, I wish I had those same issues with Pokemon. Final Fantasy grew and evolved in a way that they lost me, but I still respect them for constantly trying to grow, even if I don't like the direction they decided to grow into. Pokemon has not grown much, if at all. Superficially, it has with the introduction of several deities, and the sheer number of different Pokemon creatures being over 1,000 at this point. But the main series has not really told any stories that hit all that many good notes. It's the spin-offs like Ranger and Mystery Dungeon that do that, and when's the last time we've had a Ranger game? And as much as people want to blame Game Freak for everything, I'm pretty sure at least part of the blame has to go to Nintendo itself, after all. It's not like Mario has changed all that much since the N64 days, outside of some game-specific gimmicks, and the controls getting a bit smoother as time goes on. In terms of narratives, Nintendo maybe has 3 top series. Metroid, which I've LP'd quite a few games from. Fire Emblem, which I'll start working on as soon as I'm done with Warcraft 2 Ties of Darkness. And the Legend of Zelda series, which I've got to get around to actually recording at some point. In Metroid, the gameplay loop has not changed much, even as it's constantly refined. But you can most definitely say the main character has had an eventful life and isn't just going through the same song and dance over and over again. Yeah, there is always some slightly different themes each time you go through the isolated hell. Fire Emblem goes in a similar direction as Final Fantasy, in that each game has a fresh cast of characters and a fresh threat for you to fight against, even if the stories of each rarely reach their full potential for one reason or another, and there are some repeated bits here and there. And Legend of Zelda gets by with the whole cycle of rebirth and balance, changing things up while keeping the same central themes and a few specific characters. Nintendo has shown that you can keep the central parts of what keeps the series rolling while still innovating and telling some nice stories along the way. And again, I feel the need to mention how utterly infuriating it is for me that I see a lot of other franchises working so damn hard to try to grow and gain more of an audience. And here's Pokemon just sleeping in a corner with a lead that is so massive that it's hard to imagine anyone ever overtaking it, unless something obscenely catastrophic happens to the money-making king. It's just that darkly funny thing that the franchise that tries to have this is a rite of passage and young people growing to become legends in their own right, doesn't really know how to grow itself, and none of those legends from before other than the first generation seem to matter to these people. It kind of feels like I got more negative than usual for this clip, and that's saying something since I never really pull my punches, even for games that I absolutely enjoy. I hope I wasn't too much of a downer here, and I hope that I'll be in a better mood when I get to working on the next clip of this Let's Play. May as well finish things off in this clip